Did you know that tariffs, those extra taxes on imports, have the power to reshape entire economies, but they also have a much more personal impact than you might think? They can drastically influence wealth distribution. Let's break down what that means, who gets hurt, and who actually benefits. Stick with me, because by the end, you'll see the hidden side of tariffs and how they affect your pocketbook. So, what are tariffs really? They're like tolls on the global highway. Countries use them to charge extra taxes on goods coming in from other places. Governments argue that tariffs protect local jobs and industries. But what's often overlooked is how they affect income inequality and wealth distribution. Tariffs have a direct influence on what we pay for things, and that hits us all differently. Let's start with the basics. When tariffs are imposed, businesses that import goods like electronics, clothing, or steel now have to pay more to bring those items into the country. You might think that businesses will absorb the cost, but no. They usually pass it down to you, the consumer. Higher prices. Now here's the kicker. Those higher prices don't affect everyone equally. If you're well off, a few extra dollars on your iPhone, no biggie. But for families on a budget, that price hike can hit harder. It's the middle and lower income groups who feel the pinch the most. Why? Because the items subject to tariffs tend to be everyday essentials, like food, clothing, and electronics, things that people rely on. Here's a real-world example. Think about Emma. She works as a school teacher, lives paycheck to paycheck, and has a couple of kids. When tariffs raise the cost of the shoes she buys for her children, that extra $10, $20, or $50 isn't just a little inconvenience, it's a real problem. It forces her to adjust elsewhere, maybe cutting back on groceries or entertainment. The same goes for the increased cost of electronics or any of the countless other products we depend on. And here's where it gets tricky. The wealthiest individuals, who often benefit from owning large businesses or investments that profit from higher tariffs, can actually come out ahead. Why? Because while they're shielded from the immediate price hikes, after all, they don't have to worry about the price of a toaster. They can capitalize on tariff-driven shifts in global markets. For example, a company that makes steel may see a boost in profits if tariffs protect its U.S. production, but the lower-income worker who needs cheaper steel for construction, well, they'll be stuck with higher prices. The Federal Reserve has done studies showing that tariffs disproportionately hit low-income households. In fact, a study by economists at the University of Chicago found that tariffs imposed during the trade wars of the past few years could lower the purchasing power of families in the U.S. by a significant amount, up to 0.2% of total income. That may not sound like a lot, but it's a major burden for those already struggling to make ends meet. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. There are some nuances to this story. Sometimes, tariffs are used strategically to protect or grow key domestic industries, like steel manufacturing. The goal is to make those industries more competitive by limiting cheaper foreign imports. Theoretically, this can create jobs in certain sectors. But these jobs are often in industries that require specific skills, and if you don't already have those skills, that benefit is pretty limited for you. Let's take Liam, for example. Liam works in a local steel plant. Thanks to tariffs on imported steel, his company doesn't have to compete with cheaper foreign steel, and as a result, they hire more workers. Great for Liam. But his cousin Noah, who works in tech and relies on cheaper electronics for his business, is feeling the heat. It's a balancing act, where one person's win could be another's loss. The big issue here, though, is that the tariff structure often lacks transparency. The government might promise to protect domestic jobs, but how much of the economic benefit actually trickles down to the average worker? The truth is, not everyone wins. In fact, tariffs can make the rich richer and the poor poorer, essentially widening the gap between the haves and the have-nots. A study from the National Bureau of Economic Research even showed that the wealthiest households tend to benefit from tariff policies, particularly in sectors like technology, finance, and luxury goods. Meanwhile, the lower-income folks see higher prices without any real increase in wages or opportunities. So how do we fix this? Well, first, we need better targeted policies. Instead of blanket tariffs on wide categories of imports, What if we use tariffs strategically to protect only those industries that need it most? That way we could protect jobs without burdening consumers who already struggle to make ends meet. There's also the argument for reducing tariffs altogether, what economists call free trade. By lowering tariffs, you could lower prices on imported goods, which would benefit consumers. But there's a catch. If you do this, you also run the risk of undercutting domestic businesses that rely on tariffs to compete, potentially leading to job losses in certain sectors. It's not a perfect system, but it's all about finding the right balance. And finally, let's remember this. No matter where you stand on tariffs, the impact on wealth distribution is undeniable. Tariffs are one of those economic policies that might seem like they're helping the average person, protecting domestic jobs, strengthening industries, but in reality, the effects can be much more complex. Before we wrap up, here's something to think about. What can you do to protect yourself from these shifts in wealth distribution? It's not just about understanding tariffs, it's about staying ahead of these changes. Diversifying your income, investing in industries that thrive despite tariffs, and advocating for policies that ensure fairness, these are just a few steps you can take to safeguard your financial future. What's your take on tariffs? Do you think they're helping or hurting our economy? Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear what you think. And if this video opened your eyes to something new, make sure you hit that like button so you don't miss out on future deep dives like this one. Remember, this content is for educational purposes only and not financial advice. Always consult a certified financial professional for personalized guidance. If you want to learn more about how policies like these affect your financial world, you'll definitely want to check out the next video that'll dig into the best investment strategies during times of economic uncertainty. Stay tuned.